Hello, I'm Robbiie Young and I'm the NUS LGBT Officer Open Place.
And I'm Fran, I'm the NUS LGBT Officer Women's Place.
On Friday the 8th of September, NUS is encouraging you to meet with your local MP and voice your concerns about the government scrapping the maintenance grants.
And we're here to give you a bit of an overview of what you can talk to your MP about and how to win those arguments. So first of all, whenever you go to see an MP, you need to be clear and specific with your asks.
Even if your MP disagrees with you, they have a responsibility to pass on your concerns on your behalf, so don't let them off the hook. If they do agree with you, ask them to do more. First ask, ask them to write to Joe Johnson, the Minister for Universities. If they don't agree with your point of view, you can still ask them to do this and pass on your concern.
You can also ask them to pray against the regulations. So basically, proposed cuts to the maintenance grants won't actually be debated in Parliament because they don't require a change in legislation. So we're trying to force these MPs to have a debate. MPs are able to submit a special form of early day motion and pray against the regulations, which will increase the likelihood of a debate in Parliament. Hopefully this will encourage MPs to stand up for students and vote down these changes that the government wants to introduce. Is it me?
It's you.
Get them to ask a parliamentary question to the Department of Business and Innovation and Skills. There's more information on these asks on NUS Connect under the Cut the Cost section. And of course it's important that you know your arguments better than we do, because then you'll be prepared and you'll be able to win the arguments with your MP. Here's some of the responses that your MP might ask you that we've preempted, so we'll go through these now. So, the arguments.
Replacing the grants with loans is more progressive, as it means that students will have more money in their pockets. Yes, more needs to be done to tackle the day-to-day costs that students face, but cutting maintenance grants is a really regressive policy, as it will hit the poorest students hardest. The loans means-tested system, while poorer students will still be able to access bigger loans, means that more debt for them and their wealthier fellow students.
Okay, another argument they might come up with is increasing tuition fees didn't have an impact on the number of students going to university. This means that increased debt is not a deterrent for students. This is quite a broad statement as well as being complete rubbish. When we look at the impact of tuition fees on certain groups, it is clear that there is an increase in the increase in tuition fees has had a massive impact on certain groups of students, such as a clear drop in the number of part-time students. We also know that the poorest students are the most debt averse. For example, they are already more likely to live at home, reducing their choices in the subjects or the institution they might go to, or they may select a town based on lower living costs. They may also choose shorter courses or different subjects based on financial reasons rather than what they genuinely desire to study. These restrictions do not affect richer students in the same way.
During difficult financial times, efficiencies need to be made, and converting grants into loans will save the government money. At the very heart of our argument is that all of society benefits from wider participation in higher education, yet the cost is increasingly being pushed onto individual students, and the government isn't actually going to save as much money as predicted in the long run. It's going to cost them more to loan higher amounts to students, and only around a quarter of those loans will end up being repaid. So long-term cuts will only save an estimated 3% of the government's current contribution to higher education.
Also, finally, there is a really important point. Maintenance grants were introduced to make sure that all students had a fair chance of accessing higher education. We already know that maintenance grants are there to specifically help students from liberation backgrounds, and students who face estrangement or no financial support from their family are given a full maintenance grant. Under the new system, they will be forced to take out more and more debt, which will make their access to higher education even more difficult. This is not fair and it's not right.
So, those were the key arguments. So, what to do after the meeting? Write to your MP to thank them. Include a summary of your action plans and the agreed outcomes of the meeting. And most importantly, let NUS know what you've done so we can see the fantastic work you're doing within your students' unions. Well, that's it for us.
Good luck on Friday the 18th.
That's all from Rob and Fran.